against Nova Esports. This is going to be one heck of a matchup. Rogue did a fantastic job last week. They got second place, only losing to CA9. Sorry. Nova have had a good season so far. They had a great season last time around, but Rogue is definitely a huge opponent for them. This is going to be kind of I feel like a defining moment for both of these teams in the season. This matchup could be a matchup that we see a lot of times across the course of these weeks. We'll start off by talking about Nova. Now, we've mentioned this yesterday. Starboy has stepped down from the roster for a few weeks. It's going to be Eco stepping on into his place alongside Truth and Lone Delphi. Now, yesterday, we saw these guys kind of flexing their muscles a little bit with some off-the-wall picks, but this is definitely a team to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, they put out a tweet as an organization saying, you know, we play whatever and somehow manage to make it work. So obviously feeling very confident. You know, it was against Tempo Storm yesterday, though, so you still have to kind of rein it in a little bit. You know, keep your eyes open, keep your head level going into a matchup against Rogue, because if you do just kind of go for these wacky all-out picks, Rogue can punish you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, let's talk about Rogue a little bit here, because they have not had an easy schedule this week. Started things off going up against Tribe in an unbelievable series yesterday. If you haven't watched that series, go and watch it after this one, because this one's going to be amazing as well. Spoilers, Rogue
then
won.
You missed the finals.
Yeah, you will miss the finals. Wait until tomorrow to watch it, in fact. But definitely go back and watch it. Evil, Hammy, and Pon, the original. Now going into Nova. This is going to be yet another test for this squad.
Yeah, I mean, this squad, though, is stepping it up, and they're taking on the tests and the challenges, and they're taking on them well. This time, they're going up against Nova. I expect them to come in with full force, play to the aggressive style that they have been playing, play to their strengths with the jewels on Hammy, the Pon, the original Cruels, and the Rhymes, and just try to get a comfortable comp that you have played this season and played well to try and beat Nova.
Yeah, and the crazy thing about this roster is has actually been together for a couple seasons now with maybe some very minor changes, and they weren't this powerhouse that they are now. And the big thing that's changed for me has just been their mindset. Just from talking to a couple of players, especially the interviews we've had on stream with Evol, their mindset is just completely different now, and it's a much better place for them, and it's allowing them to be able to focus on their gameplay and just focus on themselves instead of worrying so much about their opponents.
I mean, if you're going to change your mindset, if you're going to step it up, this is the season to do it, because a world spot is on the line.
It certainly is. Everything is on the line for these guys right now. Let's take a look at the matchup for this game that I want you guys to keep your eyes on. It's going to be Hammy going up against Truth. Now, both of these guys have been playing Duel recently. There's obviously a lot of picks in these guys' arsenal, but the Duel, definitely one that both of them are more than happy to go and make huge plays on.
Yeah, and both of these players are just pure carries through and through. You saw the kills and the KDAs for both of them, both very impressive numbers. Obviously, a few more kills per game for Truth there, but it is very much they're both not afraid of building, protect the carry compositions. They're not afraid of building their entire draft around their carries.
Definitely. I mean, and also the matchup between them, they both have very specific patterns when it comes to their hero picks and very specific hero pools. They're a little different, though. The only things that can be contested between the two are the Kestrel picks and the Jewel picks. Everything else, there's the Scarf, there's the Black Feather on the side of Hammy, and then there's the Celeste on the side of the Truth, or the Truth of Light. So it's a little different, but they're both definitely the cornerstones of their teams.
And I mean, let's start to talk about the draft and those picks and how we're expecting those to be prioritized, because in this current meta, you really can prioritize any of the three roles depending on the strengths of your team individually.
Yeah, and I think because there is such strong strengths in the carry roles for both of these teams, they can try and focus on the opponent's carry. Because, you know, a lot of times if you're banning away an opponent's hero pool, you're also taking away from your own carries pool, and that's not necessarily the case, as Zora was just mentioning. So I think there is going to be a lot of pressure on both Hammy and Truth in the draft to try and push them onto some of their more fringe picks.
I also know that both of these teams actually have really proactive supporting staffs with their coaches and their analysts, and I think this series is going to show which supporting staff is actually going to be stronger, because we talk a lot about draft, and I think in this matchup, the draft is going to be almost everything, and whoever is going to come in more prepared, that's the team that's going to be winning. And as I said, it's on the supporting staffs to do that.
Yeah, looks like Nova, they're going to focus on the jungle as they take the Rhyme away from Pon the original. I feel like that it's such a respect ban it's the only time you're going to see it as a first ban reliably is when a team is playing against Rogue.
Is this going to be a cruel pick for Rogue? This is what they would have traditionally went for. If they're going to keep doing similar things, it would be a cruel pick into a Baptiste ban or a Batiste ban so they can take it away from the Catherine that's already been picked up on the side of Nova. If they try to switch it up, they don't. They just go for the cruel. Play it safe. Pond the Original is an extremely strong player, especially if he can get an aggressive jungler, and cruel is exactly that. It's something he can play aggressive on and try to gank with, and the Batiste ban follows.
Yeah, of course, the Batiste ban gonna come out every time against Nova if they've already got that Catherine. They're the squad that started that Echo Batiste train, I guess, that happened last season. Everyone started running it for a couple of weeks there. So smart ban by Rogue, just not allowing that combo to go through. But it is still a Catherine on the side of Nova. She's still incredibly strong, even just on her own. So it'll be interesting to see what they do decide to round it out with. There's going to be the Lance coming through. So this is that big tanky front line that Nova loves, or that Rogue loves to get in front of Hammy.
Not only a big tank in front line, but whenever Lance is picked for the side of Rogue, I just get so excited because Evil is going to be playing that pick. And we know Evil is such an incredibly mechanically skilled player. On Lance, he can make incredible plays. The Kestrel comes out for Nova. This is one of Truth's strongest heroes and one of his most confident heroes. I feel a little bit nervous for Rogue now just because Truth can make a lot happen with the Kestrel pick. As far as the last pick for Rogue, they don't have too many options. They played Scarf in the past with this comp, and they could also go back to the Jewel to try and pressure the Kestrel early on.
Celeste is there too as a very viable option. Hammy plays an incredible Celeste. He showed that off yesterday, and it could definitely come out against the Kestrel. You have the range equaling each other once you get to level 8 with the Glimmer Shots versus the Helios. So if you're wanting to have that carry versus carry matchup and you're wanting to prove yourself, the Celeste, I think, would be a great option for them to go with. But it's going to depend a lot on what Nova takes as their jungler, because obviously Lone Delphi has been a very consistent player for them.
Yeah, I was going to say the last pick here for Nova is going to have to be Samuel, because they're going to want to play the double carry composition we talked a lot about yesterday, where you have to play in formation. Catherine in the front line, Kestrel and Samuel right behind her. You stick close together in the team fight and just kite away together when Cruel tries to engage. It's a composition that also has a lot of poke and siege potential that you can abuse throughout the early game and mid game. Nova have clear win conditions and clear power spikes. If they play to them, it can get out of hand really fast.
It certainly can. Now, one thing that I want to mention is Celeste has made it all the way through this draft, right until this final pick. Rogue could pick that up if they want to take them on at this range game.
They could take it, like Tasty Bacon just said, and Hammy has played it last game. I would still prefer to see the Scarf come out, just because Hammy plays it better, in my opinion. It's a more of a comfort pick for him, and it plays better into the Catherine, because you can't reflect as much damage with the Catherine bubble as you could against the Celeste.
Not only that, but putting down the goop is a great way to keep someone in close range for the Krull to just start building up those stacks on them. They can't run out of it as quickly, so it does make a lot of sense. Either of those carries would have worked right into the wheelhouse of Rogue. This is a composition that they know and love.
All right, let's start to talk about how we expect this one to go down then. Who's going to be the aggressors in the early game, really putting their foot down to start things off?
Nova will have to siege, but at the same time, Rogue will try to fight back by ganking with Cruel. If they get the kills, they can break down the siege and they can scale.
All right, we'll see if they can set that siege up and if they can keep it going throughout this game. Hashtag Vainglory8 on Twitter to let us know whether you want Rogue or Nova to take this one. But it's time to hit the Halcyon Fold and pass it back to our casters once again.
Thanks very much, guys. Jules and Donne back once again for Rogue versus Nova. This is game number 1. Now, Kestrel didn't make it all the way through, but Celeste did. I'm very surprised we didn't see it here, Donne, but clearly something else was on Rogue's mind.
Yeah, clearly that Celeste is actually so good at zoning out the backline, and obviously it is going to be Delphi in Truth looking to be standing as far back as possible to avoid damage, and that makes it a very easy situation for Eco to be in. He just has to body block out the Spitfires coming out of Scarf, and they should easily be able to deal with Pawn the Original on this Krull as a result. Truth when he gets that 4th item online, Delphine when he gets the Broken Myth, Eve, and Frostburn online will be a absolute threat to Krull engaging too far. And actually, Hammy able to steal away that Elder Treant. That is a good start for Rogue there. Already up quite a bit of gold, but it is going to be the side of Nova getting some ambient gold here in the back, and that is not what... Rogue did that the first part of the rotation. Never mind. So, okay, I'm caught up now. I was a little distracted there on the Treant, but good start for Rogue.
Yeah, I mean, with an extra chunk of chains. That was in a 2v3 as well. Did a very good job of stealing away with the Spitfire. Now, looking at Hammy, actually looking at Evo, let's look at him. He's on this Lance. Once again, Hammy's going to be more than enough protected. Evo has just been such an absolute monster on this hero. Like, I just couldn't believe myself yesterday that some of the teams weren't just banning it away from him. And he's back on it again. Such a comfort hero for him. They're actually going to start up this Elder Trio once more, and that did go over. I think when to Hammy yet again, it did indeed. So Rogue, 2 out of 2 Elder Trio so far.
Yeah, and Evil is a absolute master on this Lance, especially when he gets that Echo online, but it is a little bit more difficult since it is a double ranged composition set up for the side of Nova here. It makes it a little bit harder for him to get those triple impales, those triple Githian walls, just because obviously Truth and Delphi are not going to want to be standing right on top of each other. You know, it's very easy for them to look at that and be like, okay, we need to stay separated, and that's going to make it easier for us to come through and get a win here. Because Lance gets locked up when he uses... Oh, hold on here.
Well, he's going to get a little locked up with a merciless pursuit. Lone Delphi moving forward with that Drifting Dark. Just punishing Evolve for his aggressive positioning. Hammy couldn't really trade much back. Was quite low on energy after using the Spitfires to clear the way, but he will end up going back here now. However, picking up a Reflex Block first item just to dissuade Eco on this Catherine.
We see another steal on this Elder Treant, though. Evil is here, not quite going to be in time, and now Evil's in a bad
and
spot.
now he's actually just going to get chased. Yeah, Merciless Pursuit will stun him up, and that'll be first going over to Truth.
And Hammy looking to try to help his teammate out, get that farm there. It is going to go over to Nova. A good Spitfire lands on Truth. He's very hurt, so he is going to have to be careful on this next situation. And here it goes, Hammy!
Oh, Hammy moving forward with the goop, hits another Spitfire to finish off the roasted Kestrel. That will be Eco just backing off. Tail between his legs. Lone Delphi moving up towards the lane, however. Might be able to get a little something done. However, Evo has spawned and made his way towards the lane as well. So very, very careful they're going to have to be around this turret. In fact, Eco going very low. A Spitfire and a Goop will signal the end of him. Another kill on the board for Rogue.
And Rogue has had a magnificent start so far. Hammy has been a monster on this Scarf, poking out Truth every opportunity he gets. And that is a beautiful thing for Rogue. Obviously, this push composition coming out of the side of Nova wants to rotate into the lane, wants to force Hammy back, and they've been unable to do so.
Oh man, a Goop does land. Githian Wall as well does end up hitting the Spitfire. Eco is just about there. Didn't quite body block the Spitfire, so Truth is going to have to be forced to go back here once again.
Yeah, and like I said, Hammy has been absolutely amazing on this Scarf, landing Spitfire after Spitfire. It does look like he's going into that Eve of Harvest first, and he should be able to get it here off of just one recall, as he's done a great job splitting those ambients with Pawn the Original every opportunity they get. This is going to give him more sustain for his life in the lane, as well as additional energy regeneration as well. So Scarf in a good spot right now, but this is that push that Nova really needs to start getting. You know, Samuel is here. You need to be forcing some damage on this turret as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we see this combination so often. This Kestrel with this Samuel just pushing down these turrets very, very quickly. Pond did make his way towards the lane. He is so close to hitting level 6. As you'll see time and time again, Krolls love to sit in that top brush. As soon as that level 6 hits, there's going to be devastation. It's going to be go time for Nova. Oblivion does sleep up. Pond does have to use those boosts to get away. That will be Hammy, not quite dealing enough damage to take down Eco in that fight.
And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Krull's natural health pool is very low. So when he commits to that backline, tries to get on Truth, tries to get on Delphi, he almost has to go on to Delphi because Truth, now that he's got a bit of weapon power behind him, will be able to use the active camo mid-combat. So that is going to give him some additional time to actually maneuver out of a dangerous situation, as well as return a lot of damage onto Pond the Original. And because of that low health pool that Kroll has, he's going to get chunked out very quickly by those Malice and Verdicts, by those Glimmer shots, and he can put himself in a bad situation very quickly.
One has hit that level 6. He has got From Hell's Heart. Evil lands an Impale. That is as good. You're as good as dead. Never don't want us to overstep here. They're happy just poking away. They've also got to be very careful. That Pond could be making a flank here. They're going to have to get some early vision down. They've only got the single scout trap in the mustache brush on their side. But for the moment, that should be all right.
Yeah, as of right now, the only flasks that are down are for Evil and for Truth. So Evil obviously not going to be the main target of damage, but he will be on that front line, you know, and those Glimmer shots and Malice and Verdicts are directional. So it doesn't even have to be Nova targeting him for him to take the damage. So, you know, if they look to find a fight here in the next couple seconds, they could essentially take Evil out pretty easily. That is a big defensive item for a Lance not to have because it's based on your total health pool. So as the captain, you're obviously going to have a higher health pool and get a little bit more benefit out of that. And here it is Rogue coming in.
There's the root. Evo comes up big from Hell's Heart. Does land on Eco. Can't do much for his team when he's stunned up. Truth ends up going down. Hammy going to chase with those Spitfires. Eco forced to pot the boots there. Takes a Spitfire on the exit as well. And that'll be Rogue actually moving towards the gold miner here.
Yeah, and Rogue already up 1.5k gold, definitely looking to extend that. Hammy clears out a little bit of vision here, which is brilliant. And now Delphi might be in a little bit of a rough spot as Rogue is prepared to turn their attention as quickly as they need to. Gold mine gonna go over, Hammy securing that with the Spitfire and Goop. And there's just nothing that Nova can do at this point. Hammy has his second tier 3 online. It is that Frostburn. So that will provide that additional utility slow for his team. It will make it easier for Pond the Original to get onto targets. And I almost think if you're Hammy, you need to go Broken Myth third instead of Clockwork.
Well, he has got the he's got Frostburn right now, so he's slowing up Nova every time he hits Spitfire. Time and time again, Eco has been hit by 2 or 3 now. This is quite deadly here for Nova. If they keep standing in the way, they are going to get rooted like this. Eco gets rooted up, so does Truth. They are just going to be able to back off for the time being. Pond the Original did send out the From Hell's Heart as well, but it did end up getting blocked up there. Now Rogue have the advantage in the lane. Eco is so low, has got Brass Tremor, but he cannot help Truth as he is just burning away. Hammy's got the wave clear. His turret is under siege now.
Yeah, and with Evil having this Crucible online, here we go.
Impale was good. The Githian wall was better. Eco burning away in the Goop. Oblivion does get blocked out. Lone Delphi tried to save his captain, but it just wasn't enough.
No, definitely not. And Truth takes another Spitfire. Hammy is absolutely amazing on this Scarf pick, finding more.
Goodness. Goop's coming up big as well. He did actually use those boosts to just try and find the executing blow onto Lone Delphi. Maybe Broken Myth is in order because he's going to be consistently, if I can get my words out, on 9 stacks. Truth ends up taking out the Lance. Evil did overstep a little bit, but Lone Delphi takes another Spitfire. Can't punish Hammy for having his captain down.
Yeah, and I can see the rhyme or reason for either a Clockwork or the Broken Myth. The reason I'd like to see that Broken Myth is just because of how much poke he's getting down before these fights. It seems like it would be a little bit more beneficial for them because, again, he's been landing every Spitfire to the point that it's forcing Nova back. So it's questionable which one he should go for. I'm interested to see which one he does go for. Obviously, he's the professional. I'm just a pleb here talking about Vainglory. But, overall, Rogue is in a great spot, though. They have a 3k gold lead at this point, and, they've really looked like they're in a commanding lead in these past couple team fights. Nova has been able to find 2, but Hammy has just done everything he can. He's hitting constantly with those Spitfires. I mean, Delphi's already at half health before this fight has even started.
Oh, Delphi, he has got sustain, which is the main thing, but he actually just needs to get the Drifting Dark off with a couple of Malice and Verdicts to keep alive, for the time being at least. Only with 1 item under his belt as well, and if you look at Pond the Original right now, he's got the tension bow, and he's working more towards maybe a poison shiv in this case. But they are just going to move and rotate towards the lane once again. Upon maybe looking for a little something here. Nova are going to be able to secure their front camps, at least for now. Now, this is a big pickup. Eco has actually picked up the Crucible now. Hammy, though, just taking the turret instead. You know what, Rogue on the offensive, do go for that turret, do find it as well. Evil going in a little bit too far, almost goes down. One shot, one kill will go a little bit wide. Blast Tremor was used as well, but only a little bit too late.
Yeah, and it is important to make note that Crucible was used by Evil, but he has saved the fountain.
Heart is going to hit Eco. Oblivion is going to get blocked by Hammy in return. Truth going very low. Hammy takes a glimmer shot, and Pon has to back off as well. There's a lot of poke damage from Nova. He cannot be underestimated. Evo is coming in, though. Impale does end up missing. In fact, it's going to get blocked up by Truth, but Low Delphi is alone. Beautiful Githian wall from Evo into the goop. Eco taking so much damage, and there's the Dragon's Breath as well. No turret, no problem. Hammy gets one. He gets two, he gets three with the Dragon Breath. An ace for Rogue. What a beautifully turned team fight.
That was absolutely amazing. Hammy finds three. They find a turret. They're going to find a gold mine. And on his way out, Hammy will even likely look to take some of the enemy's jungle as well. That could not have gone better from Rogue. Evil even recalled all the way to base. Let's get into this replay real quick. So we'll see at this point, Evil is now back in the lane. They lock up a double stun against the wall. Here comes Hammy, finds the Spitfire onto Truth, comes through. He's not able to get the active camo stun down before he dies. And then the rest of that Dragon's Breath, finding Lone Delphi in a basic attack on the Burning Catherine, going to find a third kill for himself as Rogue takes a 7-2 victory, 5,000 gold in the lead with a huge objective lead as well.
This is why Rogue right now is sitting at second place in the ladder. Because they can pull stuff off like this. Not only is Evil a god on the lance, but Hammy is a god on the scarf as well. Impale does end up landing. Pon is going to be on Eco's tail. That goop is going to be a little bit too much for him, but Evil's going to dash forward straight into the Githian wall. He'll take the kill. Another Githian wall will land. And there's Lone Delphi falling, and now Truth on the run from Hammy. Pops into stealth, but gets popped himself. Rogue, they're getting a little ridiculous, and they will find another ace.
Yeah, and Hammy has that piercing shard available to him, so he is going that broken myth third item. I think this is the best route for the case that they've made this game as they find another ace there. Again, it has been Hammy finding very extended fights where he would be able to build up that broken myth. He's going to increase his damage a lot quicker than with a clockwork, and he's been able to find the kills very quickly. Truth has gone into a double monocle breaking point build, and he's just not surviving long enough to actually make anything out of it. I really would have preferred to see the Sorrow Blade double monocle into a tension bow or into a bone saw and make it very difficult for Pon the Original and Evil to come in face first. And that just hasn't been the effect that we're seeing. Pon the Original is staying healthy through these fights, and as a result, that just allows Hammy to be safe on the back line. He's landing every Spitfire essentially, and they're finding kills almost uncontested.
Yeah. A little bit worrying now for Nova, but again, this is what we can kind of expect from Rogue. Triple Impale does land. Oh, that's bad. Nova caught in the wrong place, wrong time. Truth running away. Dragon's Breath is charged up. Eco's going to fall. Truth as well is going to bite the dust. And now Lone Delphi, he's about to get turned to charcoal as Hammy finds another triple kill. Back to back to back ace for Rogue. And now the Kraken, with 20 seconds left remaining, will be spawning very soon.
Yeah, and this is going to be another gold miner going over to Rogue. Pon doing a great job taking out this Crystal Sentry as well. That's going to be two objectives that they get off of another ace. So this is what we've really seen out of Rogue, is their objective control on the back of these team fights is almost unrivaled, with the exception of maybe Cloud9. I mean, I would even put them up there, maybe even above TSM. So Rogue has really been impressing me these past couple of weeks, and Pon the Original, you know, again, him and Evil on that front line doing such a great job making sure that Truth and Delphi cannot find any damage onto Hammy. And again, Hammy has stayed literally at 100% health through every one of these last couple fights. And now with this Clockwork online, this Scarf is at a very, very scary part of his build. Truth finally working into some Pierce, though. Maybe going to be able to do a little bit more damage to Pawn.
Well, yeah, you'd hope so at least. But if you even look at Eco, a classic Catherine build is that Echo as well. Hasn't got that online. Got Crucible, has even got the contraption to get a little bit more vision down and visual denial. But now that Kraken is going to get started up by Rogue. Pawn, however, he has other ideas, kind of. He's just diving around those brushes for the moment. Oh, Lone Delphi. That's a big Spitfire. That's another big Spitfire already. Hammy just chunking out Nova. 2 Spitfires and Lone Delphi's on half HP at the moment. Over the wall you can see Truth though, but Rogue's attention is firmly placed on that Kraken now.
Yeah, and I want to take a minute to make a note of the vision control that Evil has here. Look at all of these scout traps. I mean, there's 4 scout traps through the entire way that an enemy could come, including one in the lane and in their own tri-bush. So, you know, putting himself in the enemy's tri-bush gives them vision.
Is that where you want to be, buddy?
Oh.
I don't think so. Evo is going to find the kill.
Eco's there.
More kills for the captains. That'll be a Crystal Century going down. I don't know why he wasn't there. I don't know why he was there either. I'm not going to lie to you, Day. No idea, but he ends up falling, and Hammy now, 10 kills, 0 deaths. He's got 2 kills on Pond, 2 kills on Evo. The true carry and Hammy is really coming up trumps for Rogue. They've got that Kraken now marching down the lane. Nova, this is their make or break time. 2 turrets remain now.
Yeah, but Truth is just able to find a couple beautiful glimmer shots onto Hammy. He's already below half health. So we'll have to see if Pawn and Evil can continue to be that frontline defense for the team and keep them down. Here comes Truth.
Oh, Truth is going to block that from Hell's Heart beautifully. Dragon's Breath's going to get charged up already. Blast Tremor was used as well, but it does get blocked by the Crucible from Evo. A beautiful Githian wall to lock up Lone Delphi does sentence him to death. Pawn has fallen though. Now is only Hammy to kill Truth and kill Eco if they can. And I think that's exactly what they want to do. There's another kill for Evo as he finds the Githian wall. That Kraken still marching on the base. Even the Crystal Sentry is joined in now. And I think that's the end of the game. Game number 1 is going to go over to Rogue as soon as they finish off this Crystal. Hammy is going to make mean work of it. Although Lone Delphi is up in a couple of seconds, I'm not sure he's got the damage or the means to stop it.
Yeah, and Hammy, absolutely amazing job on this Scarf. His positioning was untouched at almost every point of this game. Helped carry his team through a victory, and this is what Rogue is known for, that hyper carry Hammy. And it works out for him again.
Hyper Hammy. It was 18 minutes in and they already ended the game. Full build as well almost. Apart from those tier 2 boots. To break down that Rogue victory, we've got the analysts on the desk.
Hammy taking that one with his roguish charm. Incredible stuff coming out from Rogue on that one. But honestly, that is one of the best Scarf performances we've seen in the Vainglory8. Like, in terms of KDA, in terms of just sheer damage done, like, Hammy went on a tear this game.
Yeah, I really hope we get to see that damage done stat come up at some point, because that was insane, the amount of work he was able to do on this Scarf, just constantly hitting those Spitfires and just chunking his opponents down. I mean, there was one point where it was pretty late in the game, you know, relatively, I guess, saying, because that game didn't go terribly long, but 2 Spitfires took a Samuel down to under half health.
Yeah, I mean, and what allowed him to be able to output that damage freely is the fact that the Cruel and Scarf synergy works very similar to the Cruel and Celeste synergy, where Cruel forces the enemy to focus him, and that allows Scarf to deal the damage unpunished. And if the enemy tries to dive on Scarf, Cruel is there to peel for him. Yeah. So it's the composition coming up from Rogue that allowed Hammy to perform so well.
Absolutely. Hammy just has free reign on that backline to just dish out those Spitfires. Let's take a look at a fight that happened 12 minutes into the game. This is where Hammy really started to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, and again, you can see these Spitfires going down, connecting exactly where he needs them to get the damage onto targets, and huge Dragon's Breath. Everyone is low, so the Dragon's Breath just tears through all of them and provides a pretty easy triple kill, all things considered, for a Scarf in that situation.
Nova really needed to get ahead early and mid-game just because of their composition. They had a lot of siege, but they also had a double carry composition that was going up against something that has longer range. And that's when it becomes hard to execute, because when you go up against something that has longer range, you want to dive on it and try to eliminate it. But it's hard to do that if you have 2 range characters or 2 range heroes especially against the Cruel and Lance. So Nova really needed to go the mid game to go in their favor, not to fall behind instead.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at our next replay, and I can assure you it's another team fight win for Rogue, because that was pretty much all we saw across the course of this game. Eco starting things off on very little HP.
And the composition coming out from Rogue, I mentioned it. Look at the plays from Lance with the Echo, the Spitfires and the ultimates, the Dragon Best from Scarf, and the engagements from Cruel. It all synergized so well, allowing them to execute and allowing them to get on the backline eventually and just roll all over Nova.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, this was one of the most one-sided games we've seen across the course of today. Let's take a look at the stats for Hammy. 37,000 damage. That is a huge number, as well as a 17 KDA, 2k damage per minute. Hammy was on an absolute roll this game, it's fair to say. And honestly, looking towards the next game, I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Scarf ban like we saw against Dienzio at the Championships.
I don't know if you can ban the Scarf, because then you're just leaving other picks open. Obviously, Hammy, is still going to be able to pick up the Celeste, can still go onto the edge, can still go onto other picks, and then you're going to be leaving that Rhyme open for Upon the Original. Like this, it's a terrible situation to be in, and it's also just going on to something we talked about earlier today, the second nightmare we've had today. So obviously, players stepping up big here in week number 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've been talking about how much is on the line. Rogue coming into this week, we're second place in the standings, and right now they are looking to keep that second place spot, but still have to win another game in this series if they want to make it through to the finals. Let's start to talk about game number 2 then. What are we expecting the draft to hold for us here? Because, as we mentioned before, there's a lot of focus on the lane for both of these teams, but jungle pools also can be pinched. A lot of stuff can happen with the captains. Where do we expect them to go?
I mean, they can do many different things, but the idea is you can't get a double carry composition against something that outranges you. Scarf has much longer range than both Samuel and Kestrel. So if you're going to play that type of composition where you have Catherine on the front line and your carries on the back line, you need to play it into the right win condition, because against something that has longer range, it's hard to execute.
Absolutely. I mean, Bacon, what are you expecting to see come out from these teams on the draft now that they're swapping sides on the draft as well?
I mean, just because they showed the fear of it in game 1 on A side, I still expect the Rhyme to be banned by the side of Nova. But again, that just... we know that Rogue is perfectly fine grabbing Krull as their first pick, so they're going to get Pawn on one of those comfortable heroes. So I almost feel like you just let him have the Rhyme, because you want to try and pinch one of those other hero pools, because you're not going to be able to take away both of those picks before Rogue takes one of them.
Is there some kind of power pick that they can try and trade for either this Rhyme or the Krull, that they can say, okay, you can have your comfortable pick, but we want to have this on our side?
I mean, they can give him one of them and take the other. That's one thing they can do. And if not, you can try to prioritize getting either Grace or Catherine like they did last game and try to play around it a little bit better by perhaps combining something stronger with it. If you get the Catherine, combine a Baptiste with it, but Rogue are not giving them that opportunity. So it's about where you want to prioritize, whether it's the carry position, the captain position, or the jungle. As I said, you could give them one and take the other.
Absolutely. I want to remind you guys at home as well that the players to be keeping your eyes on in this series, it's going to be Hammy going up against Truth. Now, Hammy is definitely the guy to watch in game number 1 of this series, but Truth is definitely a player that can pop off himself. He's had some incredible performances across the course of the last couple of weeks, and I would not be surprised to see him do the same here today, especially if you see him on things like the Kestrel, like the Celeste. But Celeste made it all the way through the draft in game 1 without anybody picking it up. Is that something that could change coming into game number 2?
It definitely can, especially if they get Catherine. I mean, they went for the Kestrel because it's one of Truth's strongest carries. The Celeste is another one of those, and it actually synergizes better with the Catherine because it's multiple crowd control that you can chain. So going into the draft here, Rogue bans Grace first. It's a pick that you don't want to give to any team in general because it's too strong in its own. It can combine with many different compositions.
Yeah, and obviously with Nova now being on the clock, last time they banned away the Rhyme, I think they need to just leave that open and try and play around it, but they're going to instead ban it away. It almost feels like a wasted ban because now Rogue... oh, okay. I thought Rogue was going to go for the Krull right away, as they have done in the past, but instead they're going to prioritize the Catherine. So they feel like Catherine is so strong that it's worth taking her over having Pawn on one of his 2 top picks.
That's going to be locked on in, and then the Batiste banned away. Not a surprising ban when there's a Catherine on the enemy team, and Lance has been a high priority pick across the course of today in both regions.
So here's something. Rogue, if they don't ban Celeste, and if they ban Cruel, Nova can still pick up Celeste. So if Nova takes away Cruel, what's going to be left for Bondi Original to play with the Catherine, it's most likely going to be Celeste what they're going to want to go for. Is the other pick that's worked for him so far, and as I just was talking, it synergizes really well with the Catherine. So if Nova don't take away the Celeste, or if Rogue doesn't ban it here, I expect Rogue to go for the Celeste if Cruel is not still going to be open. On the other hand, Nova have multiple, the Dan comes through, so they're not going to be going for it.
Yeah, not going to have the chance to take that Celeste, so good job by Rogue to ban that away, make sure that Truth doesn't get his hands on it, but he could go for the CP Idris. You know, we used to always talk about the Catherine being the hard counter to the Idris, but that's generally on the weapon Idris. It's not as hard of a counter on the CP Idris, although it is still something that they're probably going to be wary of, but they want to take the Kroll away. Again, just trying to force Pon the Original away from his top picks, which they have done now. It was the Kroll and the Rhyme have always been his top two, and they're going to be getting him off of those, so forcing something else to come out. If Rogue wants to go for this protect the carry style of play, they're going to have to figure out something else to use in the jungle.
They certainly are. The Crawl and the Lance, though, it's a combo that we've seen a lot of times across the course of this season. Definitely something that you can chain those CCs together, but Rogue, with just 15 seconds left to decide where they want to go with this one. Hero pools have been pinched, though. The Rhyme and Crawl taken off the table.
Exactly, and they're definitely taking their time to think about what they want to pick against the Cruel here. I mean, if anyone would know what to pick, who would be Pon the Original, because he plays that Cruel so often. This is something completely different that we haven't seen come out from any team. The Fortress jungle is common, but combined with the Adagio weapon power that's going to be in the lane for Hammy, that's a new composition. And especially for Pon the Original, a player that we know for aggressive play rather than this passive play style for Fortress.
Yeah, and you can see it on your screen there, totally different from what Pon the Original normally plays. I mean, obviously the Rhyme and the Kroll, everyone knew was his top two. The Grubjaw, which came out I think once or twice total, was his third most played hero. That's how much they have been emphasizing the Rhyme and the Kroll. So those melee weapon power bruisers have been, or not even necessarily the weapon power because Rhyme, but the melee bruisers have been the order for Pon the Original, and this is just completely shaking that up.
CP Idris is still open, but I was going to say Vox is the hero that Truth has played when he hasn't played Kestrel or Celeste. So they end up going for it over the Kestrel because perhaps he just lost on it last game and he doesn't want to play it again. Vox allows for more aggressive play in the early game specifically because he can shove in faster, but a very interesting composition coming out of Rogue where they can scale and they can become very strong in the late game and also in the early game just because of Adagio weapon power.
How are we feeling about the double weapon power coming out from Nova, though?
It's going to be interesting. I mean, obviously, it's double weapon versus what could very likely be double crystal. Could be the weapon Adagio, though, so you don't really know where these teams are going to go.
CP Vox, perhaps?
It could be a CP Vox. We'll have to see. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm ready to be proven wrong. Nova are against the ropes. It's 1-0 to Rogue. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know who you're supporting. But it's time to get on into the second game of semi-final number 2.
Thanks, guys. Once again, Rogue up a game over Nova right now. And it's always quite amusing, Denominate, when we see 3 captains locked in for the side of Rogue in the Adagio, Fortress, and Catherine.
Yeah, interesting combination, and it is looking to be the weapon Adagio this time around again, Jaws. So hopefully Hammy looking to find a little bit better of a performance today on it. Obviously, it didn't work out for them yesterday, but they were still able to take the series to make it this far. Evol, looking to get a steal, is going to have to just let it go, though, as he sees all 3 members of Nova there. And I think that's the smart call, but he's going to make sure he doesn't waste any time getting those stacks built up.
Yeah. Every 10 seconds, just go in, stun, walk away, stun, walk away, stun and hope something happens, and then you walk away. Now, Catherine is something we've seen or not seen. You pick. We've seen it in the draft, and it's always been banned, but it's finally getting picked up here by Evol, and specifically on Evol I want to mention as well, because he's played almost exclusively Lance over the last couple of days. And Lance with good reason. And it's kind of interesting to see Nova take it away from him and saying, okay, we know you're pretty strong on it. We'll give you the Catherine instead. I mean, we're just going to leave that one up for you, not a problem. And then we've now got our chance to do this. But Evo, if he's a mean Lance, I mean, his Catherine play is going to be equally as horrible.
Oh, absolutely.
Horrible in the
Eval
good way,
is
by the way.
One of the best captains, in my opinion, as far as North America goes. And yes, we've seen his great performances on Lance, but, you know, Catherine, a very easy hero to play as well. And that double blast tremor in the later portions of the game can be huge. But we have to focus our attention down here in the jungle as Eco and Lone Delphi are going in.
Uh-oh, Pod just got a little bit caught out in his own jungle. Eco and Lone Delphi make a very aggressive move into Rogue's jungle, end up picking up first blood. And we'll go over to none other than Lone Delphi.
Yeah, good start here for Nova. Getting that first blood bounty onto the Krull is absolutely huge. Pon, the original, does have a dragon blood contract on this jungle fortress, looking for those aggressive plays. But, you know, it's not the sustainable damage that Krull brings to the table when his whole team is not there. You know, he can't win out a 1v1. He can have a huge effect on a team fight, spreading that Mortal Wound around, getting that bleed stack to proc and do that percentage of health damage. But, you know, his perk is pack mates for a reason. Wolves hunt in a pack. When you get left out alone, it's not going to be pretty.
Absolutely not. They want to protect Hammy. He's going to be the main source of their damage when it comes to these team fights. Now, Nova, they do lose out on an Elder Treant. However, Lone Delphi going into the backwards of the jungles, just trying to take away some camps, is able to secure himself one of the healing Treants there. He's going to get stunned up, though, and he's in a lot of trouble now. Didn't get that passive burst of movement speed. He's going to dash towards, though, that Elder Treant, and he's just going to find himself a truth. Upon the original, he's going to get chased down here as well. Nova turning that small engagement right around and force Pon's boot usage.
Absolutely, and the fact that Lone Delphi even got that Treant is absolutely massive for Nova. He was able to get out alive. No kills were found in that fight, but you know, now Hammy did look to rotate over, look to get some backs out of Nova's jungle, saw Lone Delphi coming, decides this is a bad idea, and gets out of dodge. Going back, he has now purchased a Heavy Steel, the Six Sins, and a Swift Shooter. So looking to go into that Sorrow Blade first item. And I do think this is a better route than going with the Poison Shiv that we saw him run yesterday. That Poison Shiv just doesn't offer the same upfront damage to really benefit off of the range that Adagio has. Puts him in a little bit of an uncomfortable spot, and now Delphi not done looking for more here out of Rogue's jungle, but they smell it going on, and they are coming in hot.
Like a convenience store, their jungle right now. They're coming in really hot, and now he's finally caught out. Doors are closed. Nova end up sacrificing a kill there, and it will go over to Hammy as well, the most important member, or at least the carry right now, for Rogue.
Yeah, getting Hammy to that Sorrow Blade is where Adagio is going to start to spike. He's going to start to have that early game dominance that it's going to take a little bit more time for Truth to ramp up, and that's where Rogue really needs to push the advantages. They need to understand, okay, we have the Sorrow Blade on Hammy now. He's just purchased it now at this jungle at the home shop, and now coming back into the lane, it's going to be an easier time for him to get those last hits, as well as the amount of damage he's going to be able to output and poke from a range is going to be sizably better than if he were to have gone with that Poison Shiv first item again.
A lot of upfront burst damage, and now Pon has actually finished that Storm Crown as well. So we'll be able to contest these neutral objectives. Lone Delphi's a neutral objective right now, sitting high and dry in the middle of the map. Triple Githian wall, though, is going to sentence Hammy to death, and that'll be Pon falling as well. Evo gets chased up. Beautiful play from Eco. Nova find an ace.
Nova find an ace. Nova are probably going to find a turret, as well as a Crystal Sentry here from Lone Delphi. And he may even look to stick around and find some additional jungle as well. A half rotation out of Rogue's pockets. This is a huge lead forming for Nova already. We are at 3,000 here at just 6 minutes. They've got to be feeling pretty comfortable here. But we do have to remember, this is a double weapon composition. So as Hammy and Pon the original build up armor, we'll probably see multiple Atlas Pauldrons come out. That's going to help Rogue deal with some of this damage as the game goes on. And it actually looks like Delphi is going into possibly a breaking point first item. So getting that armor online early is going to be absolutely huge for the side of Rogue. They need to limit his damage that he's able to output so that it takes him longer to scale up in the fights. And now Nova just looking to get a gold mine here, and it's going to be uncontested. In fact, I don't even think Rogue knows what's going on, as they're so far pushed back right now. 3,500 gold leads sitting on the board for Nova, and that is going to be almost enough gold for Delphi to get that breaking point online. He has already gone with that Atlas Pauldron, so he is going to be looking to dive onto Hammy and get that debuff on.
There's 7 minutes as well. That's a pretty sizable gold lead, and it's all by Lone Delphi invading Rogue's jungle over and over again. He knows at the current time and at the early stages of the game, Hammy's the only one that can kill him. Attack of the Pack going to get unleashed. Upon the Original's going to jump straight on the back line, but Hammy's going to be the target of the aggression from Nova. They're just not letting him go. He ends up falling to Lone Delphi, and now it's only Pon, the Original, and Evold to stand in their way. A beautiful Impair will lock him up, and that'll be another ace for Nova. They're just going to push onto this tier 2 turret here, Day.
Yeah, not a clean ace like we saw out of the last couple fights, but it's clean enough to get a turret down. Unfortunately, they did not finish off that Crystal Sentry before it did recall, so it will be marching back onto the map again at full health. So Rogue's got to feel at least all right about that. They didn't lose out the worst case scenario. I mean, the worst case scenario would have been their entire jungle's gone, the Crystal Sentry's gone, the turret's gone, and Rogue is just, you know, literally manhandling them as the game goes on. And now Truth looking to keep this aggression up. Jaws, I can't believe how aggressive Nova has been this game.
The stark contrast to what happened in game number 1. Rogue just seemed to take everything in their strides. Hammy was just hitting Spitfire after Spitfire after Spitfire, took control of the lane. Truth was just laid by the wayside. He was just nowhere to be seen in some of those fights. And now he is sitting at 2 kills and 4 assists, almost 100% kill participation. He's got Sorrow Blade online, he's got Poison Shiv, and now Nova are going on the aggression. They know Hammy's going to be the main target for their for the team fights. They know he's got the most damage on the Rogue squad, and now Rogue, they need to be able to just keep Hammy alive with Pon, with Evo just backing him up. There's a little bit of crystal power boom built for Pon here, so at least he's got a little bit more bang for his buck in these later on team fights. Another gold miner though will get taken by Nova.
Yeah, Pon definitely looking to get that Aftershock online, helping with some cooldowns as well as that burst of damage when he goes in. However, he's pretty far behind at this point. I mean, 32 CS, we're 9 going on 10 minutes into this game. Hammy has just now completed that Tornado Trigger, but more importantly, just the draft in general. Rogue has got this far off of getting Hammy onto those hyper carry heroes, those heroes that we don't have to have the biggest jungle lead for Pon the Original to really be able to capitalize on. And that's not what a Weapon Adagio is. A Weapon Adagio is one of 2 damage sources. He's not a sole carry, and that's just a little out of Rogue's comfort, in my opinion, at least in watching them play. If this goes to a game 3, I hope we get Hammy back onto one of those Crystal Mages as the sentry's going down. Here we go.
Oh my goodness, that was beautiful setup from Hellshard. Does hit Hammy. They're going to chase him up. Crystal Sentry's joined the fray, but Hammy's already dead. Pon falls next to him as well. Truth ends up going down for his first death of the game, but Delphi's there with the damage. No matter who Rogue focus, they will take one out, but not before 2 members are taken out of theirs. Hammy has just been he's been a punching bag, I want to say, Day, in this fight and in this game. He's going to get logged up. Eco gets Githy and Waldlow. Delphi will chase him up. Smite's not going to quite be enough. Rogue do end up spawning. They're not going to be able to get too much out of that. So it literally was just a little bit of gold transfer.
Yeah, a little bit of a gold transfer, but with a 6,000 gold league, Nova, looking over at their builds, Truth has the Breaking Point, Poison Shiv, and Sorrow Blade complete. All that's left for him to do is start getting into the defense, and he shouldn't really drop. And looking at the builds over on the side of Rogue, he should prioritize that armor first. We do see the reflex block, we do see the armor purchased, and this is smart because right now, Pon is not really a damage threat. Now he has the Aftershock online, he will have a bit of burst, but the consistency of damage coming out of Rogue is going to be relying on Hammy, who has the Sorrow Blade and the Tornado Trigger. So Truth needs to get enough gold to upgrade this armor to tier 2 and get an infusion, and they can look to push for another fight, and probably a lot safer of a fight, as they are now on this gold mine and Rogue is on their way down.
Yeah, Rogue is on their tail. Eco's going to get a nice impale onto Evo. Honda's going to unleash the attack of the pack, but Truth's in the backline left completely alone. To wait for it, he's going to silence them all up, but look at Truth falling so quickly, and he's actually going to take the first casualty of war. Hammy's going to fall again instantaneously. They do trade 1-for-1, however, but Pond is just going to get chased down. He's smited by Lone Delphi, and he goes down as well. Nova, they still take 2 members. Evo, only member left alive. That will mean Nova are now just going to ravage their jungle.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Truth, he was not able to get an infusion before that fight broke out. And, you know, that, again, he's going to need that defense. Hammy does output a lot of damage with this critical build. And now with Nova getting onto this Crystal Sentry, we already have a 6,500 gold lead for them. And with this gold miner getting ready to go down, if Evol isn't able to steal it, then that could start, you know, really laying the hurt onto the pockets of Rogue, as Nova, you know, if they get closer and closer to this 10,000 advantage, Vox is going to have his full build online in absolutely no time. He's sitting on 1,500 gold in his pocket right now. He has enough for that metal jacket, and that is going to cut down so much damage coming out of Rogue. That is what he should pick up at least when he makes it down to the shop. There it is, metal jacket ready to go. Upon the original, only 1 true offensive item, and Hammy struggling to get into his 3rd offensive item, while Truth has 3 and a tier 3 defense as well, and a level 12 infusion. So that's where we could really see this lead developing for Nova right now, is just looking at Truth's build over Hammy. And also, obviously, Lone Delphi, the aggressive rotations through the jungle, stealing away CS from Pond the Original, has done a fantastic job this game.
I mean, you can just see it in the numbers, can't you? 65 CS for Lone Delphi, 42 for Pom right now. Has got the Aftershock, so he is able to just execute targets if necessary. But the problem is, and I'm looking at Lone Delphi's build, and I'm going, he's got an Atlas Pauldron. He jumps, and what has been happening? He jumps to the back line. Hammy's attack speed just depletes. And then he's sitting there just trying lazily, it seems, to throw basic attacks out at Truth, trying to do as much damage as possible. And Nova can easily win these fights, and they have been doing just that. Truth now almost stopping the back there with the Sonic Zoom, but just pushing in these lanes. We are 14 minutes on the clock now, and there is a 8,000, sorry, can't count it seems. 8,000 gold lead here for Nova. This is looking a very one-sided game.
Yeah, 2nd Tornado Trigger now online for Hammy. He is going to be critting on almost every basic attack. Evol does have that Atlas Pauldron, but it is a little more difficult to land an Atlas onto Vox, specifically because Lance is also there. So the Sonic Zoom's available, as well as that Githian Wall can force Evol back, which makes it difficult to lock Truth up the same way they've been able to do to Hammy. And, you know, again, now Truth rushing down to the shop, has the gold for an Aegis, has it now complete. Truth is almost at an unstoppable point in his build.
Oh, there comes the attack of the pack. Lone Delphi's going to be the target this time. Impale does end up rooting only a couple of the walls. Truth trying to run out of the way at the back of the fight. Pon the Original and Evil had isolated him, but Lone Delphi is just going to get chasing on Hammy. Can't quite find the smite just yet, and Impale does land onto 2 members of Rogue, but Hammy this time turning this one around. Rogue find 2 kills, and now it's only Eco standing in their way. And with 15 minutes on the clock here, Day, this could be a Kraken as well. If they finally find the last hit onto the lance, they do. An ace for Rogue, and now they're going to set their sights on the giant beast.
Yeah, the ace minions here in the wave should take down the turret by themselves. In fact, almost have it done already. Pon went a little too far in that fight. The whole situation with the Krull is you want to protect your carry. You need to keep Truth alive. You need to let Truth be the one to ramp up. Delphi committed everything into diving in that fight, and then at that point it was just a matter of, okay, Hammy, Pon, Evol just dash past him. Delphi's already burned his gap closers at that point, and that singled Truth out. Eco had a good inhale, a good Githyan ball coming in, but it wasn't in a timely manner that Truth was able to come in and follow up on damage. You know, he was just a little bit out of range, and that was allowing Rogue to turn their attentions around. And now Hammy working into Pierce as well should be able to duel out Truth at this point in the game.
Kraken still marching on these turrets though. Rogue are just sieging up here. Attack of the Pack's going to get unleashed. But we'll use those boots to get away for the time being. They've got a lot of damage to deal with this Kraken, unlike what Rogue do. So they will be able to make mean work of it. A Kraken for one turret, not too bad whatsoever, especially as Nova are going to be able to secure a little bit of gold as well. Crystal Sentry will go down, and Rogue will be able to secure at least another objective while they walk out the side of Nova's jungle.
Yeah, definitely looking to do so that Kraken push, maybe not as effective as Rogue would have hoped. Obviously, that choke point turret still standing, not the most ideal situation for Rogue, but as we get further into this game, obviously they'll be able to take down that turret with ease if they get a chance where they all rotate up. That Storm Crown will make short work of the barrier, and the raw amount of damage coming out of Hammy will be able to just power through that turret. We have to see more coordination coming out of Nova if we want to see them pull this one together.
Well, it is, the gold lead is kind of collapsed, only slightly. Rogue securing an extra 2,000 gold, making it only a 6,000 gold lead now for Nova. But still, Nova in a commanding position to be able to take this game. Remember, there's only one true damage threat on the side of Rogue, and that is Hammy. He's got 2 tornado triggers now, so he is dishing out the dirt, but can he do it quick enough before Lone Delphi and Truth execute him? 2 Atlas Pauldrons now finished for the side of Nova, as well as 2 Crucibles as well.
Yeah, definitely, you know, going to be useful moving forward, having that additional Crucible. There's so much crowd control that comes out of Eco and Lone Delphi that, you know, it's going to come down to the timing. You know, Pon is a jungler. He's not a captain. We're going to have to see if he can help with those good timings.
It will. Kraken's going to spawn very soon, mind you. So Nova, they've got this in mind. They are just kind of setting up little death pushes here. Same with Rogue. They've got the same idea. Not too much vision for Nova, however. On the entrances to the jungle is exactly where they've got theirs. Rogue have got more around their back camps where they need it to be, honestly, at the moment. However, Evo looking to go back to base here, maybe pick up a few more flares, a few more scout traps. But a Bone Saw completion for Hammy is going to shred through some of Nova's armor quite readily, and that's going to be very important for him to stack that one up. But will he survive long enough for that to be the case? They are going to get flared out. This next team fight will possibly result in a Kraken, so both teams right now are going to have to be very careful in how they're maneuvering around the map.
Yeah, definitely have to be careful. We see the attack speed that Hammy is putting out. He's even picked up the Bone Saw now. So, you know, getting those stacks out incredibly quick will shred that armor of Truth. But, you know, Eco and Delphi both have an Atlas Pauldron. If they can make it onto Hammy without getting too far out of Truth's range, that's going to be where we're able to obviously see the damage coming out of Truth start to ramp up. If he gets forced out of a fight early the way Rogue has been able to do, then he's never going to have time to get those breaking point stacks up and carry through a fight like the Vox hyper carry should be. There is not a lot of damage on Delphi, so we are relying almost solely on Truth to be able to carry Nova through these fights.
2 sets of War Treads are finished now as well for Nova, delivering Delphi to the back line just to make sure Hammy has to kite back as much as possible. Versa Judgment isn't a necessary tool in the weapon power build, not doing too much damage. The stun will still be present, yes, but Nova realistically, well, Hammy realistically just wants to get loads of basic attack down, so not locking himself in that animation. Now, infusions across the board. This is setting up to be quite a mean fight. And one small thing I've actually noticed as well, Evo's only got 18 stacks on that Catherine passive. Although Lone Delphi looking for an engagement here. I don't want to start saying a sentence too quick here, because they will just pop those War Treads. Pon is going to be just rushing towards that back line, popping the War Treads as well for the second time. From Hell's Heart is going to land, it's going to strike true as well. Hammy actually just gets caught by it completely. Stun up against the wall with the Githyan wall, and that will sentence him back to the base. Lone Delphi picks up the kill, and that'll be Pon falling as well. It's just a mess. It's just a cluster disaster in these fights. All of 6 players just standing on top of each other, and we only know the victors before they just after they clamber out from the dead bodies that do lay. Turns out this time it's Nova finding the ace. They're going to break the base as well. They're 21 minutes in. Can they look to end here, Day?
They are looking to do so. These death timers are getting pretty short, as well as their minion wave is, but they've got a second wave coming in. I think Nova has it here, though, Jaws. They have the damage split evenly on the turrets at this point. Eco gonna take that one down, and now Nova is just in a race of damage. With
one's gonna fall, the second one falls as well. The crystal is gonna go down. Nova take a game off of Rogue, and the series is tied up 1-1.
Beautiful plays coming out of Nova there at the end, as well as a great shot call to just ignore the Kraken and push in and end the game. It is not the cleanest of games for Nova, but hey, a win at this point is a win.
A win is a win, and Rogue have proven to everybody that they are a formidable roster. However, Nova taking this to a 1-1 will lead this game 3 being extremely tense. We'll have to wait and see how that's going to turn out. However, this game will be broken down a little bit more with our analysts on the desk.
With Nova taking that one, we are now in an even series, but neither of the games in this series have been particularly even. Rogue taking a handed victory in game 1, and now Nova basically doing the same thing to Rogue in game number 2. Obviously, Rogue had a little bit of a comeback towards the end, but it wasn't significant enough for Nova to really lose control of the game.
Yeah, there's really only one team fight that Rogue were able to win convincingly. It did get them a Kraken and got them a lot of pressure on the map, but that just wasn't enough for them to be able to finish and close out the game until that one last team fight. I almost want to get just a recording of Suijay talking about where you don't fight Lance so that we can just play it every time it happens, because it happens so frequently. They chased right into a corridor, a narrow passage. Vox and Lance just destroyed that team fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the thing is, for Adagio also, Rogue's composition outscaled Nova's that late into the game. Even though they were far behind the goal, they were able to come back, and their composition, just because of its natural strength, it becomes stronger late game. The only thing that could have went wrong for them, and the only thing that could have allowed them to, or made them lose that team fight, was Adagio getting caught and getting CC'd for such a long time. And that Hell's Heart from Cruel, the boomerang hitting the Adagio, locking him down for such a long period, that's what killed it for them.
It was absolutely huge for them in that fight. Let's take a look at the first replay from this one. 7.5 minutes on into the game. This is how Nova started things off and got the ball rolling for themselves.
And you can see just being super aggressive in the enemy jungle. Pawn the Original went for a Storm Crown as his first completed tier 3 item, so he has no effect in this team fight. He just doesn't do any actual damage. The Storm Crown does great damage to minions and monsters, but it does minuscule damage to enemy heroes.
The Fortress pick too, it's such a far pick away from what Rogue usually plays and their strengths of playing aggressive and playing strong early game composition, especially for Pawn the Original. The Fortress is just too far away from that, and Nova punished it perfectly. I talked about how strong Vox is in the early game, especially when combined with a Cruel that is also so strong in the early game. They were able to punish Rogue, they were able to get into their jungle, take objectives, and snowball the game.
Yeah, they absolutely were. Let's take a look a few minutes later on into this game. This was a double kill that came through for Nova around 12 minutes on in. And this was, again, Nova, they were already well and truly in control of the game at this point. They were just kind of putting their foot down.
Yeah, this was once they, again, still had this clear advantage. There's still no clockwork, or no aftershock, sorry, on the side of Pawn the Original. 10 minutes in. This is one of the biggest problems I have with finishing the Storm Crown as your first item, is the aftershock doesn't come out until 10 to 12 minutes in, whereas if you just go Stormguard banner it directly into the aftershock, you finish the aftershock at the 6 to 7 minute mark instead, and can start actually having an impact in team fights.
It really does make a big difference.
Yeah, it certainly does. And then just a few minutes later on from that, we started to see Rogue, pull themselves back into the game. They had a couple of good team fights, and this is one of them in this upcoming replay where they actually managed to really take it to Nova.
This was the team fight that Nova were able to come back into the, or Rogue were able to come back into the game with, and we see it's because the Fortress walls, once they're popped and once it's this late into the game, the Adagio weapon power is able to burst down whoever he is focusing. And because Fortress's aftershock is already there, the double infusions, as we can see, both Fortress has one and Adagio too, while on the side of Nova it's only Vox that has an infusion. That played a role in that team fight too. And Nova, after they took that, or Rogue, after they took that team fight, they took Kraken. The only thing that could have went wrong for them after that, as I said earlier, is a Dodger getting picked off. Had they just played their win condition a little bit better that late into the game, the early game wouldn't have mattered, and they would have been able to close out the series.
And we almost saw them turning that into more victories, but then the next fight, the final fight of the game, they decided to fight in the jungle. And like you said earlier, Bacon, you could make a montage of Suijay saying, "Don't fight Lance in the jungle."
Yeah, and they started it in the lane. That's great, but then they come through. The Crucible's already used, huge from Hell's Heart, gets the massive stun, but then Githian walls constantly being thrown in there. The wait for it going through the entire team as well. It was just that you're getting yourself into a situation where Nova wants to fight. And they forced that. Like they were up in the lane, they started to fight. As soon as Nova got down into that choke point, they could have just backed off and said, all right, we'll just back off and wait. The Fortress ultimate's on a fairly low cooldown at that point anyway, with Aftershock and Storm Crown, and just wait for the next ultimate use and just keep pressuring the lane instead.
Yep.
But they went for the fight, they tried to force the issue, and it didn't work out.
I mean, Evil also blocked the first Githian wall with his Crucible, so that was a great play coming out from him. The only Githian wall that hit was the later one, the second one on Adagio. The biggest thing was that Cruel ult, the Hell's Heart. Had it not landed on Adagio, and they had another Crucible too, still available for Hammy. Had he used it in time, they would have been able to win that team fight.
Yeah, it was definitely a possibility, but unfortunately didn't come to pass, and it means we're going to game number 3 in this semi-final. It's already time to start this draft off Petal. It's going to be the first ban taken away off the board by Nova.
And so Nova just not wanting Rogue to give that Petal a try, I guess, because it's not a pick that we've really seen them use at all. So a little curious to me that they went for that ban instead of moving. They obviously moved away from the Rhyme ban, and that's going to be Rogue taking the Kroll off the board. So they're still going to get their Rhyme almost certainly, because Nova is hot. Okay, Nova's going to pick it up. I did not think Nova would go for this one, but now they're once again going to have Rogue, with Pon the Original not playing one of his top 2 heroes.
I mean, it's actually not a big deal as long as Rogue end up picking something that he can play aggressive with, or something that has a clear strength. We mentioned this, I mentioned this last draft. Had they been able to pick it up, that's another thing that Pon the Original can't play with. The Black Feather is also another pick for him. Just don't give him a hero that he has to play passively on. That's not playing into his strengths, and that's not playing into your strengths as a team, Rogue. So the Lance comes out, that is definitely playing into your strengths, because Evo is an incredible Lance player. Eco definitely is another great Lance player, and we saw it last game, so it's a really contested pick in general in this matchup.
Kestrel going to be taken off the board. We know how much Truth likes to play that, and Hammy, so removing that one. But the Scarf taken away. We saw Hammy absolutely demolish on the Scarf in game number 1, so not at all surprised to see that back.
Yeah, especially when you have the low mobility of a Rhyme, but Grace going to come out, so it's not going to be Evol on the Lance. It's going to be Pon the Original with the Lance almost assuredly, because I don't think it's something that Hammy plays. I think the lane Lance is something that's exclusive to Kvalifar. But coming into now this next pick for Nova, that's a big front line that they're going to have to try and get past.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing I don't really like it. I mean, Lance can be an aggressive jungler, not against the Rhyme though. It's more of a protective jungler. Again, doesn't play into Pon the Original strength. And taking the Lance away from Evo, it might still all end up working for Rogue. It's just not playing into your strengths. Rogue were they were playing really well into their strengths, and they were able to identify them so far into the season. This time though, in this matchup, I'm not sure why they're trying to experiment more.
I don't think this isn't that much of an experiment for them though, because it's still that protect the carry composition, and Rogue excels with that composition regardless of if Pon is being an incredibly aggressive jungler or not. If he's on a bruiser that can protect Hammy, that's where Rogues excels incredibly. Obviously, they would prefer to have that more aggressive style jungle, but even with this setup, I think they're in a great spot to try and keep Hammy safe. Although the Lyra portals, if you portal a Rhyme on top of a carry, they're not going to be going very far. So that could be something that Nova really try and work. And if you bring a Jewel with you too, it's just going to be a party.
Wow.
This is all kicking off now. Now we've got the duel locked in. We talked about this pick coming into the matchup. Rogue, they have to decide what carry they want with this kind of protect the carry composition that we talk about so much.
I mean, the really strong carries they have left are CP Idris and Celeste. So they go for the Celeste instead of the CP Idris. A very strong composition coming from Nova. I actually really like their drafts, both this game and last game. The duel, they're saying, Rogue, we're going to beat you with your pick. We're going to have a much more aggressive overall composition, especially since Rhyme can beat up the Lance in the jungle matchup. Lyra is great for sustain too, so even if they don't get ahead, they can play a little bit with her sustain. Rogue, they do have a very specific composition with the Celeste.
Yeah, they certainly do. I'm excited to see how this one is going to pan out. Who's going to be on the front foot at the start of this game, Bacon?
Early on, you got to figure it's going to be the side of Nova that's making the first moves.
All right, we'll see if they can bring that into a victory. We've seen two very snowbally games. Let's see if the third one's going to be any closer. Hashtag Vainglory8. Let's see who's going to move on into our final as I pass it back to Jaws and Denominate.
Game 3 now underway. One apiece right now, and Rogue, they got their hands on the Lance, but this time it's actually going to be going on to Pawn the Original rather than Evil, who's actually taken the Grace.
Yeah, and, you know, this weapon Lance can definitely be a huge threat onto squishy targets, but looking over at the side of Nova, we don't really have the squishiest of targets, except for maybe Delphi before he builds up that fortified health. And now Evil with a very aggressive rotation here. It is going to be Nova just starting up this Treant, though.
Yeah, they're going to be able to take that away quite easily, as in fact, Evo has made his way all the way to Nova's back. Seiko's going to be there as well. He's going to seal away a couple of those, so he's told one apiece. They're going to split that one nice and even. However, a small fight is going to break out as Hammy does end up choking the potion there. Nova's going to find the first blood. Lone Delphi's securing it. Pon's going to get chased out as well.
Yeah, Truth pretty low as well, but he has saved his flask, and that is an important thing to make note of here. Obviously, that discipline, knowing that he was going to survive, he has not had to waste that proc. He might use it now, though.
Nice route onto Truth. Impale does land. Githian wall onto 3 members as well, but he's going to have to run away rather sharpish. Hammy making his way towards the fight as well, but hang on a second. Pon just picks up the kill onto Truth, all grouped up, no worries. They do trade 1 for 1 in that small exchange. 2 kills. 2 kills to Nova, 1 to Rogue, 1 to Truth technically, as we're already into 2 minutes into this game.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Truth. He actually didn't use his flask at that fight at all, and I don't understand why give up a kill at that point. You know, obviously going back into the lane, there's going to be a pretty sizable amount of time before you need that active again, as obviously the escape that we have on this duel, that Rocket Leap, can be used to get out of danger. So, at least in my opinion, I think Truth gave up a pretty unnecessary kill there, giving some gold over into Pawn the Original's pocket. And we'll probably see the Sorrow Blade first item come out on Pawn, just looking for that raw damage on those impacts.
Yeah, Lone Delphi did secure both of those kills for Nova, however, so he'll be bolstered in his early game aggression and what he can do. Now, Hammy's going to get bullied out here quite considerably. Truth and Eco are going to put up a mean fight up in this lane. Evil now deciding to actually walk around with Pon in the jungle to try and disrupt Lone Delphi. The Elder Treant has spawned yet again, and Nova, they want to take control.
Yeah, Nova definitely looking to do so. However, the gold lead pretty negligible at this point. You know, there's not really a whole lot going on here. Hammy is low on health and energy, so will not be able to rotate down here with this team.
Pon's in trouble. Holy Nova's going to come through. He's actually going to knock up Eco, and Pon's actually going to use the boost to get out of there. A cheeky recall by Truth, I must say. Does actually just piece on out of there as Lone Delphi does chase Pon away from the rest of his jungle. Eco does end up moving up as well.
Yeah, and, you know, Pawn, now that he has picked up that Treant, might even look to come and fight here, but Delphi picked up the Elder. Here we go.
Oh boy, Pon's going to get jumped on. Lone Delphi did take the Elder Treant, got that healing to his name as well. Hammy's going to make his way towards the brush as well, but they are just going to back off rather tightly. They knew Truth was coming around from the side, and if they got pincered between a Rhyme and a Jewel, that was going to lead Rogue to be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, definitely going to. And now I like the Celeste going into the Rhyme. I do think that Celeste outtrades Rhymes in most situations, but this Jewel does so much damage in the late game with that critical damage, and now it's Truth making another rotation down here, Jaws.
Oh my goodness, Rocket Leap onto Evil. Pond's in a lot of trouble. Impale does end up missing, locked in the animation. See you later. Lone Delphi takes up his 3rd kill of the game, and Evol's in a lot of trouble as Truth chases him out, but Crystal Sentry's got you back this time. Eco's going to lay down that sigil for the movement speed boost. 3 kills onto this Rhyme at 4 minutes in. It's looking very good for Nova at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely is, and Rhyme is a pick that we've really seen come into light in both Europe and in North America. He is so strong into the current meta right now, specifically into the weapon power melee junglers, as, you know, anytime Rhyme is dueling out in a melee situation, except maybe a Krull, he's pretty much always going to win out because of that fortified health he gains. Lone Delphi going that typical Shatterglass first item route here, and Evol looking for some damage on Truth as well. Big Red Button's online, but as a weapon jewel, you know, shy of sniping out a very low health target, that is not going to be a useful tool for Nova in most of these fights.
Oh man, well, okay, we've seen Crystal Power Jewels, and I was really hoping it was going to be one, because watching Big Red Buttons annihilate people is probably the most enjoyable experience in Vainglory you'll ever get. I'm just saying, just putting that out there. Truth, I'm a little bit disappointed, but, you know, weapon power probably for the best as you got Lone Delphi. They're going to push into upon the original's jungle. Rocket Leap is going to displace him, in fact, stun him up. Right Bulwark's going to be there as well to snare him. They are just crouching between these two turrets. Truth has to make his way out in a Solar Storm will snipe him off. Now Lone Delphi in a 1v3 situation as Eco has just gone out of there completely. Valkyrie did come down, but Hammy is going to be there to finish off the kill and get the shutdown.
Yeah, and Hammy back on one of those hyper carry laners. This Celeste is so potent when she gets to that late game. The only difficulty here is what is Hammy's defensive item he's going to commit to is, you know, for the most part, a Celeste is going to go with 4 offensive items, boots, and then 1 defensive item. There's not a horrible amount of crowd control on the side of Nova, but they are pretty easy ones to land. So will it be, you know, that Aegis, or will we go into the Metal Jacket? I think the Aegis just lets Truth do too much damage when engaging into Hammy. It is going to come down to, obviously, Pond the Original and Evol doing their best job to prevent Truth from being able to just jump onto Hammy uncontested, because if Jewel gets on Celeste for even a second, if he blocks the core collapse, Hammy dies. I mean, that's just the end of it. So it's going to be relying almost 100% on Pond and Evol to help Hammy carry this one.
Nice route. Core collapse comes through. Does end up getting blocked. Now it is Truth's time to party. Jumps on top of Pond. However, he does dodge out. Divine Intervention will heal him up as well. Big Red Button's going to get popped. But like you said, no crystal power. It's only going to tickle Pond on the exit. Rogue will end up surviving that engagement for the moment. But Truth, as soon as he sees that core collapse go down, it's go time for him.
Yeah, you know, that's a pretty sizable cooldown here in the early game for Celeste. Obviously, as she levels it up, it will chunk a few seconds off of that, as well as getting the Clockwork online will be massive for him as well. The additional 50% cooldown will help him, you know, with his defense in a sense, since you'll have that additional crowd control available. And then we'll also see those solar storms flying, all more to rain down the terror. But, you know, Truth, you know, getting into this monocle here, he's about 1,000 gold short. This is going to be where Jewel really starts to ramp up. At level 8, overdriving those Thunder Strikes does allow them to critically strike, and because they hit multiple enemies, you can then weapon power critically strike Pond the Original, Evol, and Hammy in a single Thunder Strike if you line it up at a good time.
Well, if we take a small verse out of the Suijay book, where does Lance like to fight? In corridors? But guess what? So does Truth when he's got those critically striking Thunder Strikes. Although maybe a little bit caught out, does actually block the Impale instead this time. And he will just learn his lesson, not going too aggressive when Pond the Original is just around the corner, especially with that Sorrow Blade online. You mentioned he just wants that hard hitting base damage of that Sorrow Blade just to pack a punch in these fights. Hammy starting to scale up as well, like we mentioned, looking to go that Broken Myth for the second item.
Yeah, and more importantly, almost level 8, almost at the point in the game that he has those overdriven Helios where they'll have the increased range, and that makes it so much easier for Hammy to poke out some damage onto Nova before a fight. Could potentially force a Imperial Sigil out of Eco before a fight even starts. And Now with Nova rotating down, this is an interesting position for Rogue to be in. They can just push this turret, or they could collapse, as it is Lone Delphi rotating through the jungle. Actually, he's coming back over.
Yeah, he's just going to steal away some of the fronts from Rogue. And they did say it actually on the desk, mentioned game number 1 was very much a Rogue game. Game number 2, Nova completely flipped it around and played Rogue at their own game. And it looks like, if you remove the name tags, it looked like game number 1 all over again with Rogue in the driving seat. This game, a little bit more even. We've got a couple of picks that these players, they've been picking up ever so often, but we normally obviously see the Lance on Evo, for example. Jewel, we've seen a resurgence in as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this game does progress from here on out, because like you mentioned, Truth, if he does get his hands on Hammy, is going to get deleted. Broken Myth, though, has been finished. Now Rogue, are they going to look for a small siege here, because they've got the wave clear, they've got the damage, but Truth might be in a little bit of trouble. Core Collapse does end up missing, forcing a boost already out of Hammy, and Evo's going to pay the price. Rocket Leaf underneath the turret, Valkyrie's going to strike, doesn't find the stun, but Hammy is in a lot of trouble here. Thunderstrike does miss from Truth, but now his eco is all up to him underneath that turret to try and do something. Pon the original in a lot of trouble. Big red button's going to get unleashed. Nova can't quite find the kill on Pon. They all dive straight underneath the turret once again, but a beautiful Impale will find eco. A triple or double kill even for Pon, and Hammy will finish up the rest of the team. That's an ace now for Rogue.
That is an ace and a first turret for Rogue. And what was crazy about the end of that last fight, Pon the original actually impaled into the arcane passage, but because he landed first, the damage did go through. He found himself that double kill. It did result in Hammy finding it here. We'll get back into it here. So as Rogue comes in, they get some damage down onto Truth early on, but Truth turns that aggression right around onto Evil. They take him out early, and then in a 2v3, Rogue manages to find a way to turn it around. The flask was popped by Hammy. At that point, here's Pon getting a ton of damage down onto Truth. The big red button is going to miss, and then, we'll see here in just a second. Here comes that triple impale, double impale, and he's able to find 2 kills. And meanwhile, Hammy finds the kill onto Lone Delphi, and they take a sizable flip around here. And, it was looking really even, but now, with the objectives in the lead for Rogue, this Celeste can really start to take off.
Boy, the control of the lane is definitely in their favor. Hammy's in a lot of trouble though. Divine Intervention was used to heal her up. Nice passageway engagement from Eco, but they couldn't quite find anything. Lone Delphi on the wrong side of the lodge. He's going to have to get out of there soon. Another Holy Nova does land. A Solar Storm onto 2 members of Rogue as well. Pon is chasing up here. Impale off cooldown in a couple of seconds. But Nova, without that turret to retreat to, they're going to have to walk back even further down that lane, leaving Rogue a little bit of time in their jungle.
Yeah, Hammy is very low on energy, though. Here we go,
maybe not.
Jaws.
They're just going to go straight in again. Only Nova is going to get used, does end up missing, but already dead. Lyra falls. Truth jumps in on the back line, but there's too much regeneration for Rogue. Divine Intervention will come through for Evil once again. They score the kill on Truth, and now they're going to siege up this second tier turret.
Yeah, definitely looking for it, but Delphi looking for something of his own.
Gotta stop fighting because Day wants to speak about the fights. Valkyrie comes down. Rogue ends up just stunning themselves up. Lone Delphi does end up surviving that small engagement, does end up clearing the wave, and that'll be Rogue just backing off for the moment.
Yeah, that's the most important thing for that fight. Delphi did put himself in a dangerous position coming out, but because of the fortified health, he was able to come in and actually force Rogue back pretty easily with that Valkyrie coming out, and then obviously the Imperial Sigil coming through from Eco as well, able to top him off. And now he's in healthy enough condition that he can look to even fight, at this point. He'll probably pick up this Treant as well, just top the regeneration off a little bit. Eve of Harvest is going to be his second item. He needs to get the Broken Myth online, though. He's able to ramp up very easily against the Lance, especially if he's able to dodge out of that Impale, because Lance is then locked up for a moment after he misses with that Impale. So, there's a lot of potential for this lineup that Nova has put together, especially with Truth working into his 4th item now. Not quite the glass cannon 100% at least this time around, as we do have the reflex block for him. But, Hammy, again, when he does get hit by these Thunder Strikes, Jewel will take him out quickly.
Well, they're taking out the turrets pretty quickly as well. Evil's going to find the nice Holy Nova. Pong comes in, is going to miss the Impale, and that passageway is sending people all across the map to spread across to the 4 wins. Hammy is just going to get chased down now. 1v1ing Truth, not where you want to be, but the Heliogenesis was just too good. Hammy now sending that Solar Storm out. Will hit 2 members of Rogue. 9 breaking point. Broken Myth stacks even on Hammy. They managed to find the kill as well onto Lone Delphi, and now Eco, out of energy, out of time, and out of teammates, he's going to have to back off as now Rogue set their sights on the gold miner.
Yeah, they'll get this last life on the gold mine, but fortunately for Nova, the Kraken was not up. And we know how fast a Celeste can take objectives, so that's a little bit of silver lining here for the side of Nova. Truth is back up. He has upgraded that minion's foot into the Lucky Strike. Will get him a little more crystal power, critical damage and critical chance. And, you know, Lone Delphi, now with the Eve of Harvest complete, will be able to sustain a little bit easier in these fights. But again, he needs to get defense. He has almost got that Aegis, but after that Aegis, he needs to go into the Broken Myth so that he can start to do the damage in return. Because as of right now, you know, with the Aegis already complete on Pawn, Delphi's not a huge threat to him, so he needs to at least get that Pure Stun line. Evol, obviously, with the Echo and the Divine Intervention, has done a great job keeping Hammy alive in these fights, and has even committed to a Metal Jacket. As we saw earlier, even as the captain, Truth was able to delete him in a matter of seconds. And that's not quite the case now that this Metal Jacket's online, and that allows Evil to save his consumables for his teammates.
Truth gonna jump towards the back line. Hammy in a lot of trouble. Divine Intervention doesn't quite find the mark. The Valkyrie finds him in the end. Not enough HP. That'll be Hammy going down, and Pawn the original is going to fall as well. Those Thunder Strikes are a little bit too much. Caught out on the back line. No defensive items, and Truth says goodnight to your turret as well.
Yeah, 400 damage on every single attack, Jaws. This weapon jewel is insane. Big red button for style points. Not quite gonna find the kill though, and that's just gonna be the free Kraken now going over to the side of Nova. There are 3 turrets that stand between them and a victory. Truth is very hurt, Eco is very hurt, but with the Kraken buff here, it's gonna top them off. Truth does have the gold to complete the monocle. He is gonna go that route, but that, however, does not leave him enough gold to re-infuse, and this infusion is burning down. Already about halfway done, Jaws. And Delphi, not enough gold. Oh, he does have one in his pocket. Never mind. Delphi did have enough gold to infuse, and Eco did as well. So pretty good spot for Nova right now, as you know, this jewel is going to be able to chunk down this turret. You just have to be careful because of the range that Hammy provides the team.
The amount of damage Truth has been actually doing, his scoreline does not reflect it at all. He's 1-5 right now with 5 assists. Lone Delphi with the most kills on his team right now with the whole entire 5 of them. I mean, realistically, Truth, he's dishing out the damage. Speaking of dishing out damage, they're going to jump straight onto Hammy with that Bright Bulwark. Core Collapse is going to miss, and Truth gets impaled. Pon is already down. Valkyrie ends up just hitting and glancing Pon the original and Evol. Another Heliogenesis from Hammy will finish off the support. Lone Delphi gets chased up, and there now, that's going to be an ace for Rogue, and Kraken is going to get taken down before it does any more damage.
Evol could not have had better timing on the Holy Nova at the end of that Arcane Passage. It was literally a death trap. We'll get into it right here. Choke point turret about to go down. Here comes the Arcane Passage, but a triple Holy Nova gonna lock up Nova, and then it's only a matter of time before Hammy turns the damage around. And then, with only Lone Delphi alive, it is going to be Hammy cleaning up an additional kill for himself, sitting nicely at 9, 2, and 4. They're able to stock the Kraken before it does too much damage to their base. Realistically, Rogue only lost out on 1 turret there for an ace and a Kraken. So net gold going into Rogue's favor, but that choke point turret being down is maybe not the most comfortable position to be in. You now have no baseline defense if you're running back towards that base, and obviously the chase that Eco is able to bring to his team here with the War Treads, with the Arcane Passage. Truth does have a good opportunity to get into that backline. Eco just has to be ready to pop that Crucible when he comes in.
Another scary aspect of the team composition as well, Day, is the fact that Nova can attempt to backdoor with that passageway. Truth melts turrets. 2 monocles, Tornado Trigger, and the Sora Blade. A couple of Thunder Strikes, hey, that turret's as good as dead. That is going to crumble right in front of you. And that is going to be a scary thing that Rogue have to keep in mind. They have to keep it right there in front of them saying, Nova can backdoor. It is a possibility for them to do that. They're going to have to play safe. They're going to have to get vision down, which is kind of lacking at the moment. You can see a couple around some of the camps, but realistically, in fact, both of these teams at the moment, their vision not up to par, and you could say that's down to a lot of the itemization choices they're going and the inability to buy scout traps at the moment. But for Rogue right now, vision is a top priority that they need to make sure they're on top of.
Yeah, and you bring up the backdoor with the Arcane Passage and how Jewel just destroys turrets like they're nothing. I'd even go as far to say that in the right circumstance, Truth could backdoor by himself with just Lone Delphi and Eco stopping those recalls. Truth would easily have the time, I mean, even if they gave him 30 seconds to get into that base, there's just nothing Rogue's going to be able to do about it, unless if they kill Delphi and Eco quickly.
Well, posturing around the Kraken now. It has only just spawned. There comes the passageway. Bright Bulwark comes out as well just to stop them from moving. Truth on the back line already. Divine Intervention to heal up Hammy. Another one will come through as well. The guy is still alive and still kicking and punching. Truth is going to go down. Eco soon to follow. And now Lone Delphi is only just managed to kill Hammy. But has he got the damage to follow it up? The Kraken has joined the fight as well. Pawn is just trying with all his might to take him out. But that fortified health, a little bit too much for him. Lone Delphi, the last survivor, the lone survivor, trying to take out Pon, aggroing the Kraken, can't quite find the kill. Only Nova goes a little bit wide. Nova, they are on the ropes. That'll be another Divine Intervention, and now Rogue, they feel confident in trying to take it to them. This might just be an ace here, but the Impale goes a little bit wide. I think a chase a little bit too far for Rogue. Truth might just come up. Not quite. Rogue, they find the ace.
Rogue finds an ace, and with Kraken on the board and Hammy coming up quickly, I'd even look to start up this Kraken. They are turning their attention that way, but Eco and Truth are here. We know the raw amount of damage a Thunder Strike can do, so if Truth comes in, if he sees this is going on, there's a very real scenario where Truth is able to steal this and Rocket League out to safety. So Rogue has to be careful here. They might even look to just turn their attention onto Nova.
Well, they do have Echo and the double Divine Intervention, so keep that in mind. Hammy is moving towards and chasing Truth away. Thunderstrike takes about a third of his HP. Impale does get blocked. A Rocket Leap out of danger. A Solar Storm will follow him, and that'll dissuade him enough for Rogue to secure that Kraken. War Treads are going to get popped. I'm not sure they're going to be able to find anything, but at least getting that Kraken marching down the lane is going to be more than enough for Rogue to start their march and advance on the base.
Yeah, and it's very important for Truth to get this defense built. He has committed so much gold into infusions that they have not been able to find fights on, that he has not completed the Aegis, and Hammy is able to delete him so easily. Now, if they're able to find a kill here, if they're able to kill Hammy, even just Hammy, they can essentially just base race. At this point, Eco will be able to heal them up. There won't be a consistent amount of damage coming through out upon the original. So that's really what Nova has to be looking for here. Arcane Passage.
Passageway in. A beautiful Holy Nova stuns up 3 in Truth. Githian ward against the wall as well. Divine Intervention to heal up Hammy. Lone Delphi in the 1v2. A Solar Storm hits him, and it hits. Did that hit Truth as well? Across the map. Double hit, I think. I'm not sure if it did. It looks stylish if it did here. To nominate, they're going to chase down Nova. Eco's the last member alive. Going to take him out, and the base is as good as theirs. An ace for Rogue, and they are just going to end it right here, right now. 20 kills to 7. Rogue are going to face TSM in the finals a little later on.
Absolutely beautiful plays at the end of that game by Rogue. Hammy throwing out a couple of those cheers, getting some dancing action here out of the Celeste. But that is, as you mentioned, Rogue going to be facing off now against TSM in the finals. But TSM, they looked absolutely on their A game today. So that is going to be an incredibly exciting matchup, Joss.
Going to be pretty intense, I'll tell you that. And with Truth, the amount of damage he was dishing out in the fights was just incredible. But he just got as deleted as quickly as Hammy did as well. That's going to be Nova falling and Rogue facing TSM, like you mentioned in the finals. To break that series down, though, we've got the analysts over on the desk.
Rogue have managed to make it through in the end. They are going to be going on into our finals. They get a 2-1 victory over Nova in the end. But honestly, the kill difference in that game does not represent how close that game was, because that definitely could have gone either way for the majority of that game.
I mean, it's a high-risk, high-reward composition that Rogue had, because if they got onto Hammy, if they locked down Hammy for even a second, Rogue lost the fight. It was plain and simple. And with a Lyra on the other team, the chances of Hammy getting locked down became so high. But Hammy and the rest of Rogue were able to play so well. It felt like every time Nova tried to go for that hard engage, he was able to just kite far enough away to keep himself out of trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nova needed to get ahead early game, and they actually played really aggressive, really well like they did the game before, and they got ahead. The only problem is this time they didn't continue their aggression well. They gave up kills, and they couldn't even take the first turret down with a Jewel in lane.
Yeah, now there's a replay of something very similar to that. I want you to talk about this one, Zara. I know this is something that you wanted to talk about. Let's take a look at a fight that happened around 10 minutes into the game. This was a tower dive that came out of Rogue.
I mean, as I mentioned, they got ahead, but they gave up to kills, and this is one of the times they started giving up to kills. Truth on Jewel missed so many Thunder Strikes in this team fight. This is a perfect example of a team trying to take away their opponent's strongest picks, but focusing on it too much to the point that they're leaving themselves on a composition that they don't play too strongly. And then following that portal at the end there, just leading to a Lance Impale really easily finishing off two people.
Yeah, it was a disastrous end to the fight, honestly, for Nova there. Maybe didn't all need to go through that portal in the end, but it was an excellent bit of team play, or an excellent bit of positioning coming out from Rogue after the first kill went that way.
Yeah, I mean, even though there were a lot of missed Thunder Strikes, it was still great positioning from Hammy, making it so that the only way they could have gotten onto him was by taking that portal back through into the lane. Otherwise, they would have had to try and walk up through the brush, which would have resulted in probably the same thing, because they all would have been stacked on top of each other. But either way, he kept himself far enough away from the team that they had to move as one to try and get to him, and then his Lance is there to help get the assists to lock down the rest of the team.
Absolutely. But Nova were not down and out from that point. Around 15 minutes into the game, they actually managed to grab themselves a Kraken after a double kill that came through, or perhaps not a double kill, but definitely 2 kills in a fight.
Yeah, this was one of those ones where they're able to get on to him. You see the nice rocket leap. They didn't even use the portal to get onto him, and then the Valkyrie drops on his head, takes him down. So again, just finding creative ways to engage onto Hammy was key for the side of Nova, because when they got onto him, they got the kill, they won the team fights. That time they got the Kraken, got a lot of work done with it, but that was the last time that they were able to get onto Hammy.
Grace also wasn't able to get the second heal off on Hammy. Had that come through, Hammy would have been able to survive a little bit longer, and maybe the teamfight would have turned around. Another thing is that Hammy needed to stay close to Lance to allow Lance to peel for him with the Kythian wall, stunning people that are trying to get on top of him. But in that teamfight, Hammy was too far away from Pond, the original, and he ended up getting split. And in a 1v1 against Jewel, obviously Jewel will win that.
Jewel is pretty good at 1v1s, I think it's fair to say. Now, after the Kraken was taken by Nova, this is the fight that ensued of Rogue trying to defend against that Kraken and searching for the team fight.
This is a later team fight where Nova were able to actually turn around the game after Rogue were winning the team fights. They got the Kraken after the replay we saw earlier. They pushed in. The only mistake they did is that they engaged a little bit too preemptively, especially in the choke point, where a choke point is perfect for Lance and it's perfect for Celeste's AoE damage as well. And then on top of that, your win condition is to dive on Celeste and kill her. We mentioned how hard it is to dive on a single target in the backline in the enemy's base, because they can just kite away.
Yeah, absolutely, and they can jump onto that fountain, heal up if they need to. Not that Rogue even needed to do that during that game. Let's take a look at the next fight that happened around 20 minutes, and this is Rogue managing to get an ace, and this is the point where Rogue started to cement their victory.
Yeah, and you can see again, they try and go for that hard engage. Hammy dodges a lot of it. He ends up in the middle of the fight, but by this point, it's too late. The Divine Interventions were coming out, both of them healing Hammy up from a sliver of health to almost full. He does end up going down in this one, but again, it's just it's too late as he's already gotten the kill onto Truth. So it's just Delphi who almost cleans up here, but because he just doesn't quite have enough damage, and obviously Pan was able to dodge just enough to buy the time for that Grace ultimate to come off cooldown again. And when you can get 3 divine interventions off in a single fight, it is very difficult for you to be on the losing end of that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this little battle here went on for quite some time. Another Grace ult came out, and Pond did end up going down in the end. But our final fight came just a few minutes after that one, and obviously Rogue were the ones able to take it.
And you can see in this one, this time Rogue kited away and played their composition very well. Celeste was able to get away from the Jewel, and once Jewel was separated and she was very low, it's fine for Lance and Pod the original to chase her at that point, especially since Grace was still peeling for Celeste and healing her. Ryan cannot kill Celeste on his own, especially if Grace is there. So it was a great team fight from Rogue to win it and then end the game afterwards. I have to talk about the draft because I actually still don't like Rogue's draft. It plays away from their win conditions. The protect the hyper carry or their strengths. Protect the hyper carry is not something they excel at. They excel instead at what allows Pond the original to play really aggressively. They were lucky that Nova threw the early game lead that they had, and against a better team such as TSM that they will be going up against in the finals, they can get punished.
Yeah, we'll have to see if they can hold their own against TSM now that they're going to be going on into the finals. But before we jump into the finals, we do have to nominate an MVP, and for this game, it's going to be Hammy on his carry performances there. The Scarf in game number 1, the Celeste in game number 3 as well. Exceptional play coming out from this player.
Yeah, and again, his positioning in these team fights, whenever they tried to engage onto him, he was so good at just backing away just far enough so that he couldn't be locked down permanently like most teams are going to be trying to do against a hyper carry composition like this. So Hammy just very intelligently playing these games, and of course that Scarf game was out of this world.
Yeah,
also, for the second time showing his Celeste and taking a serious win with it. So now definitely teams will need to respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. This Celeste is another one in his hero pool, in his wheelhouse, that these teams are going to have to worry about.